Hello everyone, welcome along. Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench, and here we are now, part 7 of the build of this Lamborghini Aventador from Pocher. If you remember, I left you in part 6. We'd done the rear suspension, we'd painted the diff and everything, and I told you I was going to clean up a lot of seam lines and that on the rear subframe and then get it painted. So it is now painted in the gloss. It could be better. You can see under here it's very difficult with stuff like this to lay down a clear coat, because you need to get every single angle, and then when you come round to the top, by the time you get to the inside, the overspray starts to dry on the surface. I put some retarder in it and it still does the same thing. So I mean, you can see here the finish there is not as nice as I'd like, but it'll do. It had to be done because I wanted to clean the seams up. You don't have to do any of this. In fact, I would recommend you don't. If you just go with the satin black, because it's easy to spray the satin black on. I just use Mr. Servicer Black or MRP or whatever, Outlaw. But basically, going for the gloss has been a complete nightmare on the front and the back. I don't think I would do it again, to be honest. These are the same. They're all clear coated as well. Obviously, this rear cross member here as well. So what we've got to do now is put these to one side and let them dry, or we can sort of move on with the build, because here we're on step 14 now. So we've got to assemble this oil tank, we've got to assemble the fuel tanks, and we've got to fit all this to the chassis along with the rear differential before we move forward. So we could just leave all that until later and put all this to one side. So I'm going to put the subframe over there out of the way. I'll put these bits out of the way also with the subframe. Put those in the box lid like so. The rear suspension can go out of the way, the rear differential can be put out of the way, and then what we can do is look at these parts. So here are all the parts for step 14, all cleaned up, and we can see here we've got to assemble this oil tank. Now I've had a look online. It looks to me like this oil tank is sort of like bare aluminium. It's a welded structure with a swirl pot on the top, and you've got this big bracket here. I'm not sure where that's going to attach, but there's a bracket there anyway. So we're going to assemble all that, and that's all going to be glued together. I was just wondering why that's there. It's telling us to tell us not to cut that pin off. Okay. And then we've got these the fuel tanks here. They're screwed together, so we need 2 screw Ks. So we'll get those out of the box. Screw K. We use a lot of these. These are the plastic screws, so there's no thread cutting to do, or thread tapping should I say. So whoops, so that's going to go on there like that. No, it's not. Is it going to go like that? No, it's not. That one's going to go on that side like that. There we go. And then we're going to put a screw up underneath. Never works out, does it, on camera? We're going to put a screw up underneath, just attach those together. There we are. Just make sure that edge is parallel there. I've cleaned up all the seams and everything, not that you're ever going to see any of it. But it's why we do modelling, and it's because we enjoy doing that sort of thing. There's a little bit of dust in there, blow that out. We'll get this screw onto here. We'll just put that screw in there. So that is our there we go. There we go. So there we are. So that's those two together. By the way, today is Thursday the 13th of June 2024. Had Jess survived, it would have been 15 months today from her cancer diagnosis. It's what is it today? 16 days since we lost her. So still hurting. But, time will heal, as we all know. So that's going to go together like so. That's going to need to be clamped, because it just wants to pop itself apart. We have a little bit of flash there. Just going to remove that with a knife. Looks like that's what was causing the problem. So that can go together. So what we'll do is we'll get some of our Tamiya cement. Put those to one side. I'm going to use the white one. Just run around there. Make sure we get a nice amount of glue in there. Oh, I shouldn't have got it on there, should I? Get that off with the cotton bud quickly. Throw the cotton bud in the bin so I don't accidentally pick it up and use it for something else. Making a right pig's ear of this, aren't we? As pig's ears go. Right, so that can go in there. And then holding it together, we can just run some extra thin around and that capillary in and make sure we get a nice tight seam. And then hopefully we'll be able to sand it, not worry about having to fill anything. So there we go. So I think what we'll do is wait for that to dry, and then we'll get that sanded out before we fit the rest of the bits and pieces. But basically that is going to go, it's a D-shaped pin. So that's going to go into the D-shaped hole, and then that bracket is made so it can only go in one way. That's going to go on there like that. So they'll get glued into place, and then we'll just paint everything and then give it a coat of aluminium. So see you back in a minute. Okay, and we're back. So as you can see, we've got the fuel tanks all painted. They're painted with Mr. Surfacer black primer, and then I've painted the tops of the sender unit, and probably pump as well. I painted that silver, and then went over with a clear blue to get like the anodized look, and then masked off the blue and sprayed the center silver again. So that's how that's got that. I don't think we're going to see any of that, so whatever. But we've also got the tank, that seam done around the bottom. That's all done now. They ask you in the instructions to fit the filler, the oil filler, but I've noticed that the oil, this tank's just going to sit in the back like this sort of thing. And then we've got this oil filler is going to go in here. Somehow, there we go. But it has to come through a hole in the body, and as you can see, it's got a lot of play in it. So as you can see, it's got a lot of movement. So I'm not going to glue it in yet. I'm going to put it in the box of spares, and then I'll fit it when we actually have the rear body ready to fit on, and I can make sure it's going to line up with the hole. We've also got a decal to put on there, so I'll get some gloss on there before I do that. But we're wet. That's a way away. That's weeks away. So so basically, yeah, we've got to get this step 14 done. So we've got to fit the oil tank, fit the fuel tanks, and fit the rear differential. So I'm going to put the rear differential in first. So that's going to have to be slid in that way, and then come back over and then go down. And then we've got, that's just going to sit in there like that. And then we've got a box of screws. So we want 2 E-screws. There's 2. Remember, we've previously tapped these threads, so you won't see me struggling and graunching to get the screws in or putting them in oil or anything like that. As you can see, I can just screw them in like that, and then just nip that up. Job done. That's why I tap my threads. Okay, that's the if you heard that, that's my stomach rumbling, I'm sorry. Right, that's that gone in there. Okay, and then we've got this oil tank going in. So as I say, that's going to go in that way with this radius here is where the exhaust silencer is going to go, or muffler if you're in the States. So that's going to sit there. So it's another pair of screw E's. Just check it. Yes, it is E's. Okay, so we'll drop that one in there. Again, these are tapped. So that's just going to go in there really easy. just like so. As you can see, there's a lot of screwing together in this kit, not a lot of gluing really. So check I knit those up. Yes, I did. Okay, so that's our oil tank in there. Then we've got our fuel tanks going in either side, so that one's going to go in that side there. And again, another 2 E-screws. Again, these threads are cut, so you won't see me struggling. Just put that in there. Put that one down in there. There we go. Okay, so that's gone down in there like that. And we can put the other one in exactly the same. Another E-screw. Get it lined up with a hole. There we go. And as you can see, this is really quick, but this is hours of work gone into here. The filling and the sanding and the painting. And but as I said at the beginning of these series of videos, I would not be showing you so much sort of how to do it so that the build can speed along. What I'm doing is telling you what I've done. Okay, so if you want to do this and you weren't clear on it, paint it black, cut a circle out of a piece of masking tape, put it down over the top, paint it silver, then paint it with a clear blue to get the anodized blue look. Then I've put a piece of tape over the blue, another circle slightly smaller, and then just kept the airbrush vertical and sprayed that silver in the middle, so you end up with that blue ring around the outside. As I say, I don't think any of it's going to be seen. So that is basically, other than this oil pipe, that is step 14 done. So we can put that pipe to one side. You can grab a pencil, and we've already crossed it all off. Look, there we go. So we can cross out step 14. So over the page now to 15. And we've got to fit the engine with the exhaust, and then we've got to fit the suspension unit in, and that's going to be something worth seeing. I've got something special to do on that, so I'm going to go and grab the exhaust, and then we're going to stick those on the engine and go from there. Alright, so we've got the exhaust here, as you can see. We've got the engine, and they're going to slide on and go in together. So what I'm going to do, I've got some black and some clear super glue, but I'm going to try the clear first because I think it dries faster. And what I'm going to do is just put some of the super glue. In fact, I'll put some in every hole, I think. Okay. Got quite a nice size drop going in there. And then same on this side. Hopefully it will stay wet long enough for me to get the exhaust in. There we go. Right, so let's get that super glue out of the way so we don't put our exhaust in it. Now this should just slide in here like so, and then put one side in, hold that, get the other side in, and hold that. So is it going to stay there? No, is the answer. So I've got this great big horrible plastic clamp. It's disgusting. That should just hold it in place for me while the glue dries, and then we can just drop that in and we're back to screws again. Okay, so that's the exhaust glued on, all looking good. Okay, so you can See that there for the final time. Right, so now this has got to go in here. So basically you've got the end of this prop shaft here. That's got to go into that hole. Where is it? There. That's right, it's going that way. I was thinking it was going that way. It's going that way. So that's got to go into that hole. Down in there. You could probably just see there. So we've got to make sure that goes in there. So we'll lift this up and we'll pass that shaft into that hole and then just drop the engine and gearbox down, yeah? Is that how it's going to work? Yep. Takes a little bit of a pull, but it does go. Now somehow we've got the 4 screws going in the bottom and they are K screws. So somehow it's nice to get all this together because I have bits and pieces of assembly everywhere. It's nice to have one big lump instead. That was good. 4 screws. So I've somehow got to get these in the bottom of the engine and the exhaust without damaging anything. So I think what I'm going to do is grab my trusty polishing cloth, which I use for cleaning my glasses actually. And then what we can do is stick this upside down on there like that. There we go. And then, oh, I've got a screw on there already. Now, these are plastic screws, so they're going to be a little bit more difficult to put in. Remember, when you're doing multiple like this, just put them in a couple of turns just to get them started, and then do everything up together. That way, if you do pull anything over when you tighten the engine or something, it doesn't matter. As you can see, there's that shaft in the gearbox there. So, just pull that exhaust down to the subframe. Crack. All that crack was the remember, this is screwed together, it's not glued, so I can't remember, did I glue it? I can't remember, but that's all that was. It was just manipulating itself. You can see I've got 4 wooden sticks here in the bottom of the subframe. That's so when I put it down it doesn't damage the paint. So there we go. So now we can pick that up like that, put that down, and there we go. Right, now we've got to fit the suspension units and use 4 C screws to hold it in place. Now, as you can see, I've put a lot of time and effort into this gloss paint. Not done it very well, but it's there. I want to make sure I don't scratch anything. So what I'm going to do is just place this in position, like so. Okay. And then I should be able to get my fingers in here and pull this apart. And it should just drop down in. And that way the paint won't get scratched. There you go. See that? That just fell in on its own. That just needs to come over a bit. So I'm pulling the chassis apart again. Just push it down. So the screws are C screws. So these are the tiny little 1.8s. So again, we're going to put these in and we're going to be very careful not to over tighten them because they're tiny little threads, and also we're going to just put them in, let them go a couple of turns. There we go, just like that. And then the same here. That rubber pipe out of the way. I'm not tying them up yet, I'm just putting them in. Now, I thought this was going to happen. We have a problem here. This screw here is so long that it's stopping this screw going in. So, and I can't get to it here to wind it back. I'm going to have to find a shorter screw. Back in a second. So this is how I'm going to do it. Right. So the screw is sat in a recess in there, so if you've got any tiny washers you could actually just space the screw out so that it doesn't go out so far at the other end. But what I'm going to do is grind the screw. There are 2.6mm thread by 6mm thread. There's one there at 5mm, but it's a countersunk, so I'm not going to use that. So what I'm doing is just putting this in the pliers, just like so, put my finger over the end, grinding tool, and then I'm taking off. I'm making it about 7mm long overall. It's about 7.7mm now. Turn that off. We can check that. No. Calipers 7.1, so it's a bit more off yet. There's a standard screw there, it's a standard B screw. There we go. I'm just going to take a bit more off. Just turn it around. There we go. And it's always worth just running around the end just to clean up and take away any burrs or anything. Alright, and then I'm getting a sanding stick. Pliers out the way. Just going to get a sanding stick and just quickly go around the edge. If you can grind them, it's always best to grind them. If you start using files and saws and stuff like that, what happens is you distort the thread and you're likely to damage the thread you've got when you put it back in. It's always the problem. If you don't have a nut, always put a nut on first before you do the thread, but I don't have any 2.6mm nuts, so I can't do it. Here we go, so that's done, and that will now be about 7mm overall. Oops. Easy to measure on the bench, wouldn't it? 6.9. Okay, so there we go. So that can go in now. I'm going to have to use some thread lock on here when I put it in finally. That's going to go in that way round into there. It's going in nice and easy, so I know I'm not damaging anything. Just go in, then just back a touch. And as you can see, we've got a lot more clearance now for that screw to go in. So I'm just going to put some thread lock on these and then put them in, because I can't get to them once they're actually in the chassis or in the subframe. So I'm going to put some thread lock on them. They'll be straight. Right, so now we've got the clearance, and we can get the screw in, as you can see there. I'm pointing. The only thing is now I need a smaller screwdriver because the head of the screwdriver is up against the end of that bolt. So those are in on a few turns. So we can just get these in on this side. Okay, I need to pull the chassis apart again and just pull that suspension down. Really do another pair of hands here. There we go. That's gone down. The holes are all lined up. So we'll put that screw in first. We can now get that past that screw. Remember, as I said, I tap the threads, so that's why you don't see me struggling to get the screws in. Okay, so just put them in, give that a little nip. There we go. If you're wondering why I use thread lock, it's because I've tapped the threads. The screws aren't as tight in the hole as they're designed to be. They're designed to be put in without a cut thread. So the reason I've used thread lock is because the thread is there and the screw will come loose. If you start playing with the suspension, the screw will unwind. In fact, they actually unwound themselves even though they were nipped up. So it's worth remembering. So we just nip them up, there we go. And that's that suspension in place. So that's all good, so you can see the suspension actually works. These screws here are nipped up. Oh, and by the way, I painted those 2 bolts on the back there as well, you can see. So there we go. So this is all coming together very, very nicely. And those horrible rubber pipes, if you remember from step 6, it looks like we're not going to see that much of them, but I may have to hold them down with something because they're horrible. We shall see. Right. So we've done step 14 and we have now completed step. Oh, that's still step 14. So now we're on to step 15. Oh, this is 15. Wow, this is still step 14. So now it's telling us to fit these side pieces and fit the air cleaner, which we haven't done yet. So that's going to be the rest of this video, I believe. So these are going to go in. Now, this is probably going to scratch the paint. Because if you remember, I did file them down. Oh no, I didn't show you, did I? But what I did, I filed material off of them so that they would go in easier. Maybe I did, yes I did show you, didn't I? So that's that one gone in. And then this side can also go in. That's great. Oops, that's gone down the outside the chassis. I hope it didn't scratch it. No. Okay, something's going on here that doesn't want to go down in. I don't know why. It's because that screw head's in the way. Isn't that funny? Maybe if I tip it over, maybe if I put the back in first. Yeah, it does go. There we go. Just has to be eased over. Now you can see we've scratched the paint here, look. So we can easily touch that in with a brush later. So now we need 6 B screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just need one more. There we go. And we can just screw these frames into position. Again, as I've said a million times, I've tapped the thread so you won't see me launching them. And there we go. So now they're all in, we can nip them up. There we are. All done nicely. Do the same on the other side and then I'll come back. Okay, another little instructions warning for you guys. You'll notice here, in the previous step, we fitted the suspension and everything. Here, there's no suspension there. Here, the suspension is there. They're also telling you to put this tube into this hole here, okay, which is that hole there. I'm pointing that now, but when you look in the next one, it clearly shows you it's not in that hole, it's in that hole, and there is another hole here that it goes into. So bear that in mind, otherwise you're going to be getting in the way of the spring. This one here goes into the hole on that side by the look of it. So we'll get a drop of our black thin super glue, we'll put that on the peg, just like so. And then we'll grab the pipe and stick it in the hole, just like that. There we go. And then with a little cotton bud, just wipe over the surface and mop away the excess. So that's in there. That one's a very tight fit, that one's not. So there we go, they're in there. Okay, and it's all looking like, you know, now you can see what I mean when I talked about wasting your time with all the paintwork and everything. But we know it's there, we know it's done, and we know it's all looking lovely. So it does certainly look a lot better than if you don't paint it. As I say, you don't have to paint it, you don't have to do that at all. And I wanted this glossy because that's how the real one is. Having said that, I'm not very good at spraying gloss, obviously, because I've made a bit of a mess of it. It's very, very difficult to paint because of all the angles and everything. Right, so it'll probably be easier in the winter when it's colder, actually. The paint would dry slower. So now you can see the next thing is we've got to fit this manifold assembly, or the intake assembly, which is built up in a previous section. So we're going to have to go back to there now, and then we can fit these cross braces and everything after they're painted or decaled up, whatever. We've also got the anti-roll bar to go in as well. So that's all good. On this one, on the front, there was no links on it, and there were no, it was just one solid piece of plastic. Here it's separate. It looks like it's going to work because you've got those end links there. Can go into those suspension links if it reaches. We shall see. But looks like it might work. We shall see. Right, back in a minute. Alright, so I've got all the parts here for the inlet manifold off the sprue, all cleaned up and everything. Just a couple of points to look out for. There are, unfortunately this part goes this way, okay, with these pins here facing upwards, and there's ejector pin marks there and there, okay. If they put on that side, they'd be facing down and you wouldn't be able to see them, but hey ho. So yeah, they're there anyway. So I filled those in with some black super glue and sanded them out. So they're there, there, there and there. Okay, same on these pipes here. There's ejector pin marks here and here. Okay, and they're also facing up, which is unfortunate, never mind. There are ejector pin marks on these little things here, which you don't really need to worry about because they face inwards, but I filled them anyway. There's one there. You can see on those little flap actuators. Other than that, there are no other ejector pin marks, but there are seams everywhere. There's a little Jess hair there. God bless her. God rest her soul. Yeah, so basically, seams all around here, all around there on those pipes on both sides. Get rid of them, they look horrible. They always look horrible on round parts in my opinion. And then there's seams all around here obviously as well. They're unavoidable because it's injection moulded. But just a quick go around with a sponge and that just to clean them up. So basically, yeah, that's all of it off there. I don't have any. I think Outlaw Paints make a wrinkle paint finish, but this has got a very sort of rough cast finish to it that I might try and replicate by holding the airbrush further away and let the paint sort of drop on so it kind of gives us a rough finish, and then we'll pick out the Lamborghini with our silver pen and go from there. So I'm going to basically get all this now cleaned and painted. Oh, we've got this panel here. This is the panel that goes over the centre, and Pocher have kindly put the decal on for us. I don't know why, but they have. And in doing so, on mine, there you go, that's just going to fit in there like that. But you can see on mine, they've got a piece of silver something or other there, and I'm not sure if it's supposed to be there or not, but it's definitely got a bump to it, and I cannot get it off. So let's see if we can flick it off. I'm not sure what it is. It's like a little stray piece of decal or something. It's certainly stuck on there very, very well. But it's kind of looking like it will come off. It's like a little piece of, you know, the little metal transfers you get in Tamiya kits. We get in this one as well. The Tamiya kits, they're self-adhesive. These are like the metal stickers they call them in here. They're actually decals. Yeah, that's a bit weird, that. But there we go anyway. And I've got a feeling that in here it could have gone in a bit further. I might put some decal setting solution on there to pull them down in a bit tighter. But yeah, they've done it for us and it's nicely done. But, see about that bit there. So there we go, so that's all ready to go. So I'm going to get some decal setting solution on there. In fact, we'll see. Let's get this let's put some microsole on there. Let's put some microsole on and see what happens. Just so that you know it's safe to do on yours if you want to. And if it is indeed a decal, that should pull it down. In fact, if I put some on there as well, that might soften the adhesive on that little bit that's stuck on. Just let that do its thing. So we'll pump it in a bit. Now that I've put some decal setting solution on, I wonder if it'll just flick off. Maybe now I can push those down in with a cotton bud. It doesn't seem to be doing anything. But, we'll leave that a little while longer and see what happens. Anyway, I'm going to get these bits painted and then I'll be back. Okay, so moving forward, we have all the parts painted now. I don't need that part at the moment. So all of this over here has been done in LP-5, which is a semi-gloss black from Tamiya. It's primered first with Mr. Surfacer. You can see we've got a bit of a sheen on there, which is nice. I have got some aluminium tape and I was going to cut strips to make the jubilee clips that go on here, but the trouble is the tape, you cut it into a narrow strip and it kind of wrinkles and it ends up with a corrugated look to it. It doesn't look very good, so I won't bother with that. So we'll leave those off. All of this is screwed together. These parts here, if you look in the instructions, it's showing you here to glue them to there. Don't do that because they have to go on the top and the bottom, so you need to put those together first before you can fit those on. We'll show you that in a minute when we get there. And then here I've done the throttle bodies in silver. As you can see there, that's LP-700-4 mica silver. And what I did first, I primed them in black and then I put a piece of blue tack on the end so that the black plastic cover on the end remains black, and then sprayed it and then peeled the blue tack away. So that's the way to go with that. I've also glued these together before I painted them, so a nice solid joint on them without having to worry about paint. I've also realised that if you remember back in the engine bit, I was talking about where that stray rubber pipe went. It actually goes into there. It's not very clear in the instructions until you actually see the parts, so bear that one in mind. I'll show you that as well when we get there. But basically, yeah, everything is painted. What I want to do now is just cover, for those of you that aren't scale modelers and won't necessarily know all this, we've got this piece here, PE206 and DST15. PE2 is a photo etch sheet number 2. Okay, so that's that one there. It's got your seat belts and everything on it. And then DST is double-sided tape, and that's this sheet here in your box, in between the two boxes. So you can see down here we've got 2 of the number 15, so we use one of those as a double-sided tape, and that's going to get stuck onto there. So when it comes to photo etch, there's a few different ways you can cut it. I like to use a knife, but I believe this is stainless steel by the look of it, so it's going to be quite hard to cut. Now, don't ever put it on a cutting mat like this and then take a knife and cut down, because what you'll do is bend the photo etch. Where you put in the pressure, where the little nib is, it will actually bend it. So what I've got here is just a, let me get to that. What I've got here is just a black acrylic sheet. It's quite hard. You can use a tile. And the trouble with the tile is it's so hard sometimes the knife can slip. So what I'm going to do here is bring the knife close into the edge and then just roll it. Let's see if I can cut this. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to. Put it over, make sure you've got your finger over it so it doesn't just fly off. And it hasn't cut through. It's, as I say, it's stainless steel, it's very hard. It's very difficult to cut. If it did cut, here it go. Having said that, I think this blade's probably quite blunt. Oh, there we go, it's gone now. There we are. So put the PE back in its bag straight away. You don't want that to be catching its edges on everything. It's also quite sharp, so be very careful with your fingers. And then we're just going to take a little fine file and just gently just file the edge to get rid of any nib that's left on there. Because once you put it on that carbon fibre panel, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb if you've got a nib on there or anything. So you can run your fingernail and you can feel if there's anything there. You can see how hard it is. It just even, I can't even move this bloody nib on here. There we go, that's gone now. There we are, so that's all done. That's all nice. I'm just going to take a sanding stick just to sort of polish that edge, soften the edges. There we are. So that's that done. And then that is basically going to sit in there in that little recess like that. Okay. Quite whether I'm asking us to use double-sided tape, I do not know. But there must be a reason for it. So we'll take this sheet out of its bag. I remember when Moss was doing his, he struggled getting these off, so we'll see how we get on. So this just feels like a plain paper front. So I'm going to get my knife under the corner, and that's just removed some of the paper off the front. Oh wow, this is not easy. I wonder how thick this stuff is. Okay. Let's try and dig under it quite heavily. Okay, so there we go. So I've removed that now, and I've basically, yeah, I've got the tape off sticking to the knife. So I'm going to put this on here. Get it nice and central so we don't see any edges exposed. And see if I can remove that paper. Yes, there we go. So we've just got the double-sided tape left on there now, as you can see. And then we can take our, I'm going to grab some tweezers. You can take our Lamborghini badge. Make sure it's the right way up. I'm just going to lightly lay that down. Get it into position before we push down. There we go. That's in place, all done. Just going to nudge that over a touch. There we are, that's that all done. The other thing I wanted to talk about was this Lamborghini on here. It would appear that the older kits had this pre-painted in silver, but on these they haven't. So, but the plastic is quite glossy, as you saw before. So I've tried to give it this sort of black textured finish. What I've done is used black Mr. Surfacer and laid off with the airbrush and sprayed it far away, so it gives a kind of, you could just hear it's a rough finish. Now this Lamborghini, there's no way you're going to paint that. So what I've tried is a Sharpie, which is absolutely useless because it's got this great big nib on it, and it tends to sort of, 1 minute it dries up and then it's flooding, so I ended up with really inconsistent lines. And I also have, where's the other one? I have another one here which I can't put my hand on, but it's like a rotor ring pen. Here it is. Sorry, Eddings, not rotor ring. And this has a tiny nib, but the trouble is with that, it sort of goes along nicely and then boom, it all just floods out. So I've had about 4 attempts at it, and I'm just going to leave it black. There's no way you're going to dry brush it. I mean, I was thinking about masking around it and dry brushing it, but whatever you do, you're going to get silver on the black, and then if you go in and touch in the black with a brush, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. So I think it's best to leave it rather than make a mess. Okay, There is another way you could do it. You could paint it silver, seal it in with a clear, then paint a black over it, and then you could rub the black paint away with your finger. Maybe try that. I don't know. The trouble is then you'd run the chance of rubbing the black away from here, and you'll end up... And then the other trouble with it, it's not that crisply moulded. You can see it's a little on the soft side. So very, very difficult to do. So I've decided to just leave it. Unfortunately, I mean, I would have loved to have that in silver, but I can't do it. There is a guy, Splash Acre Modelling or something, he's on YouTube, and he's done it, and I couldn't see what pen he's using, but he managed to do it. I can't. So it's not me, it's not my lack of skill, it's the equipment. I don't have the right equipment, and I don't want to go and spend money on pens just to try and find the right one. I already did that with my wings thing, didn't I? So so there we go. Right. So we're ready to start assembly, I think. Back in a sec. Okay, so as it turns out, I've got this aluminium. This is it's what they use on like ducting and stuff. It's an aluminium tape. In fact, I'll show you the roll if you want to get yourself some. It's actually a 3M product, Core Series 591. It's actually an aluminium tape. It's an aluminium sheet with adhesive on it, and I've discovered that by putting on a cutting mat and using a steel rule cutting it cuts a lot better than using my cutting mat, the other cutting mat I use. So I've actually managed to get some nice clean strips. So what we can do is take our inlet. What I've done, I've cut it to approximately the right length, so the join will end up at the bottom. Okay, so I can stick this down here. Looks like I've cut them a little long actually. Oh no. In fact, for some reason they are not sticking to this paint. That's weird. Just grab a cotton bud. See if I can push it down. It's a bit weird how it's not sticking. There we go. If you push it down with the cotton bud it sticks. It's because I'm not getting my finger right into the corner, I'm guessing. So there we are, that's gone down there. And that's going to come over there like so. I'm just going to... I think I'll leave it overlapped, it doesn't matter, does it? No one's ever going to see that under there because it's got a block going up against it. So there we go, just give that a little nudge over on the back, and then using a cotton bud we should be able to sort of burnish it down. And there we are. That's one of them done. I need to do the others, and I'll be back. There we go, all done. And what I've done, I've just put a tiny drop of clear super glue on the bottom of each one where they overlap, just in case the glue on the tape doesn't, because it doesn't seem to be very sticky. I think with some 3M products they're designed so that they're easy to remove, but then once they've been on for a little while they really do stick down. I think the glue sort of cures. But to cut it, I'll show you how I cut it, because if you just try and cut it like it gets very, very wrinkly. So what I've done is just got the steel rule, got something that looks like about 1 millimeter, and then keeping the knife very flat. So I've got the knife flat to the board like this, rather than like that. I've got it very flat, because I found if you have it laid back it doesn't wrinkle it all up. And then just very lightly, like cutting thin plastic card, just stroke the blade over it, don't try and go through in one, and then you get this lovely clean even strip. Okay, so that's my tip for today. Remember, I've tried really hard to get these all evenly spaced and everything, but at the end of the day, they're Jubilee clips in the end of the day, so they wouldn't be perfect anyway. It's also worth remembering you can get photo etched Jubilee clips if you want to use those. But because this is a build for Pocher, sponsored by Pocher, then I'm not using any aftermarket. I'll do things like bits of tape and add decals and painting and stuff like that, but I'm not going to start buying aftermarket for it, because the idea here is to show you what you can achieve out of the box with some techniques and some paint. So that's it really. I need to go and check if this V12 badge needs to be highlighted, because if it does, we're going to put some oil in there and just let it go in and sit on the V12 and everything. So I'll go and check that, and then I'll be straight. Okay, so let's get some assembly done. Okay, as you can see here, you've got these rubber pipes that are going to go onto these little flap actuators. And I've decided to put those on now so that the glue can dry, because they follow quite a tortuous route, I think, and I don't think it's going to be easy to get them to stay in place. Also, you're going to be working in there, which is going to be quite difficult. So I decided to glue those vinyl pipes on first. If you have cut them off your sprue already, V08 and V09 are the two long ones, and V07 and V10 are the short ones. And also pay particular attention to the way round they go, because they go opposite ways round. Okay, so well, just look at the drawings and look at my photographs or my video, and you'll see what I mean. The other thing is, there's a big error in the instructions. They're telling you they've got these bits numbered. So you've got 1, then 2, then 3 is fitting these two pipes to the bottom. Don't quite understand what they're doing there. But you can't fit that first, because this unit goes on to here. Actually, this side goes on like that. Okay, and you can see there's another hole there, and that goes on to that pin on there. So if you glue that onto there now, you won't be able to get that on, because it'll be in the way. So you can't glue those on first, unless they're telling you to fit that to the car first, then fit the pipes, and then fit those little pipes afterwards. I don't know. It's as clear as mud, but there we go. So we'll see. If I go wrong, then you know you don't have to. So a lot of this is screwed together. Now you can see I've fitted a couple of the throttle bodies, and I've left a couple of them off so that I can show you how to fit them. They go on with this little hole. You've got a little hole in there, that's going to be facing outwards. And when you push that on, it doesn't want to go. It'll go the wrong way round. It'll fit, so be very careful. So you've got two options here. You can either carve some plastic out of there, or you can take a little file. I've used a file rather than a sanding stick. And what I'm doing is just filing away the tops of these to get them down small. Let's get this out of the way so we don't get it all covered in sanding dust. We could actually put this on the bench and do it. So just taking away that plastic off the top of there, just to thin them down a touch. Okay, so now they should go on. They don't need to be glued because they're sandwiched in there. There we go, that goes on there nicely, and that one's going to go on there. Some dust in there still. There we go, it's a bit tighter, that one. There we go. So that's gone on. So there we are. So that's those fitted. Now all this stuff on the sprue has got left and right on it, but it all seems to be identical. I don't know why they've done it. So now what we need to do is put this together. So these are going to go into here. Okay, like that. And then that one's going to go onto there like that. And then if you look on the bottom of here, you can see there's a tab. See that tab on there? It's about 12-15 millimeters long, and in here there's a recess there, so you know you're getting it the right way up. So that's going to go into there like that. Okay, so there's that there. Alright, and then we're going to put it all together with 4 of our H screws. So these are plastic screws, so there's no thread tapping to be done. There we go, there's 4. So we'll get those 4 in there. Remember, put them in loosely. In fact, I'm going to grab my cloth. Grab my cloth so we don't scratch anything. tighten them up. Just like so. There we go. So that's our upper section all together with the throttle bodies on. So now we can fit these. Now I've got these, so remember the long one is always going forward, okay, and this is the right way around. So this V section here is back and this is forward. So the longer one, which is this one here, is going forward. So this one is going on this side, okay, and that's going to go up in there like so onto those pins. Okay, we've got the same problem here as we have the Lancaster engine. Everything's black, so it's difficult to see. But basically that's going to go on there like so, okay. So what I'm going to do, I've got some thin super glue here. No, it's started to dry up. Let me get some more super glue, I'll come straight back. Alright, they're glued on. For this I'm using the VMX Flexi 5K CA XT Thin. It's the thinner super glues, generally the faster they set. So as you can see, we've got this long tube here facing forward and we've got the longer tube here facing forward. So we've got the shorter tube at the back there. So this one here is going to go into that hole there. Okay, so we're going to put a drop of super glue on the end of that hose. Don't need much. We'll just grab that, swing it around and stuff it in the hole. There we go. Just give it a second to dry. It doesn't want to stay in there, it wants to pull itself out. Nope, it really does not want to glue in there. Bigger drop on there. I could use some accelerator, but I'd rather not. Okay, so we're just going to hold that there for a minute or so and let it dry. Nope, it does not want to know it. See what I mean? Alright, so that one's glued in, but you can see I've got all the others in. I personally believe this is wrongly numbered. I personally believe that when you come to here, they've got V07 in the top and V08, sorry, at the back and V08 at the front. I believe that should be the other way around. So here they're telling you to put V07 and V08. I think it should be V08 and V07. Okay, because this one looks, you know, too short by the angle it's on and everything. This one's way too long. So I think it would have been much more sensible to have it the other way around. Now these all look okay, but I don't think they're very accurate in the way they're going with their huge sweeping bends and everything. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna come along and put that in position like that, and I think that looks a lot more sensible. So I'm gonna cut this one off about here. Now, believe me guys, by far this V-sprue has been the worst part of the whole model. The rest of it's been lovely, but these vinyl pipes have been awful. So bear that in mind when you build in yours. Be prepared for a bit of hassle. I've showed you in previous videos how I did the bending of them. There we go, that's gone in now. There we go, so that's going to go in there. So what I'm going to do is just put a drop of super glue on the bottom of it that it won't be seen, and that'll capillary in. There we go. Okay, so that's that one in. This one here, that one kind of looks okay, although it could be a bit shorter. When you look at the real engine, they're not all like flapping about like that. They're sort of a lot shorter. So we should be able to get that one into there. Go on, you know you want to. I'll do this off camera and I'll come back when it's done. Alright, so I fitted those. If you're wondering why this mat's dirty, actually I used it yesterday to clean a window and there was some dust on the bottom of the window frame, so that's why this is a bit dirty. It needs to go in the wash. So that's those then. I've put those pipes on there as well. They're parts R09, and they need to face, again, they need to face forwards. I can see now what they're talking about. What they're telling you to do is, with relation to those hoses and these parts here, they're telling you to put them in that order. Do that first, then do them, then do that. As I say, I would prefer to put as I did. It'd be a lot easier to get them on than try to get them to glue when they're in place. And as I say, swap over 7 and 8 because I think they're the wrong way around. So there we go. Right. So what next? By the way, 8 and 9 are identical and 7 and 10 are identical, so don't worry about getting them mixed up. There's just long and short, that's all. So now moving on, we've got these air boxes to go on, so we'll just do one side. So we have this part here, R02, so this is going to be this way up and facing that way. So that one is the wrong one. That one is the correct one. It's lovely, that LP5, the semi-gloss black, beautiful finish. So that's just going to literally go on there, like so. Okay. And then we're going to take a screwdriver, another K screw. We've used lots of these. We'll take a K screw and plonk that into there. Just give it a couple of turns. And we can make sure this is all positioned. Yes, I have got the shakes. I don't know why. Maybe I'm hungry. Maybe I need to go and stuff my face with something. Anyway, so that's gone in there like that. And then we've got the bottom piece going on. It's just going to drop on there. That's nice. It's nice that it's all screwed together, isn't it? And then we've got a couple of screw eyes. So there's one. There's another. And I may need to use this. Yes, I'm going to use the smaller screwdriver rather than scratching any plastic. So that's gone in there. That's gone in there. There we go. So that's that. We'll do the same on the other side. And then we'll start looking at this top piece. Okay, so this piece here, I did look at the references, and the V12 and the lettering on that plaque is actually black. It would have been better to do this before it was removed from the fret, so bear that in mind. What I've done, I've painted this black with a Viejo Model Air black, okay? And what I'm going to do now is with a cotton bud, let's just rub over the surface. That's why I use the Viejo paint, because it doesn't stick very well to anything Viejo paint. But I can just rub that off with a cotton bud, and there we go. Now if you'd done it on the fret and not done it on the part, we could have done it on the fret and then rubbed it with a bit of fine sandpaper or something. There you can see we've now got our V12 and the lettering underneath all there. So now we can fit this. I know it fits, so I don't need to test fit it. So I'm just going to get some super glue, this is the thin again. Doesn't need much there, I don't think. There we go. And then we've just got those two pins, we're going to go in those two holes, just like so. And that's that in position. So that's step 7 complete. No, it's not, you say? No, because I haven't fitted these two pipes. The reason I haven't fitted these two pipes, as you can see here, they fit like, wrong end, Nige. They fit like this. There's a D-shaped pin on here, and they're going to go up into that hole. You can just imagine, if I glue that on now, it's just going to get snapped off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fit them when I fit the manifold to the top of the engine, which I'm going to do in a minute. Right here, right now, I'm just going to let that go off, and then we're going to look again on the engine. Okay, so first things first, right, this rubber pipe, I think I've mentioned a couple of times that these vinyl pipes are bloody awful. That one has to go into this piece, and this piece is going to end up screwed here and fitting underneath the inlet manifold, or the inlet plenum, should I say. So that piece of rubber pipe here, hold up here, this piece here, that has got to go into that slot in that lower section. So I'm going to put a drop of super glue into there. More than that, I think. Alright, and then I'm going to put that pipe in there. I know it's probably difficult for you to see, guys, because it's all black. But we'll be moving on to some bodywork soon, so that'll be good. But the interior is all black, so there we go. I'm just going to let that dry so that that pipe doesn't try and find its way out. So I'm going to let that dry for 10 minutes and then I'll be back. Okay, so what I've done, I've glued this pipe in here because that has nothing else connected to it. And as you know, that pipe is glued in there. Now these are secured with E screws, so I'm going to grab myself a couple of E screws. Well, there's one anyway. What I'm going to do is pull this around here, put that in there. That is the right hole, isn't it? Yes, it is. Is it the right hole or not? Yes, it is. So that's going to go into there. Here, once again, we can see the benefit of tapping. I'm not going to tighten it right up because we want it to be able to move around. That pipe is in there and hopefully it will stay. If it comes out, it can go away. I'm fed up with these vinyl pipes, to be honest. So I've glued that in there and the glue's just going off. So now what I've got to do is slide this in here, get that to go underneath, and fit this onto the engine. And this rubber pipe here, I believe that is going to tuck up under. There we go. So that's our manifold down. Now this pipe over here needs to go up into its hole, which is I've super glued it already. So I need to find that hole, he says. Okay, it should go in because the other one fits perfectly. Okay, this is proving to be more awkward than I thought it would be. Trying to fit that rubber pipe in. I think I'll take this screw out of here. Trying to fit that rubber pipe into there, into the end of that hose. With that attached to, I think would have been a nightmare. So, is that in? No, that's not in the hole. It kind of goes in. Come on. Yes, that's in the hole now. So we'll bring this around, put that screw back in. As I say, I pre-glued the hole. That's what the word I was looking for, sorry there. Trying to talk and think and make a model at the same time is not easy, especially when you're as thick as I am. So there we go, that's going in there beautifully. Just hold that one in place. Hold that one in place. Now you'll notice I haven't actually glued the inlet manifold on. The reason for that is I'm not sure about the position of these, so if I need to I can remove it or at least lift it out undo those screws underneath and actually manipulate the position of these air intakes. So if they cause a problem with the body, that's what we'll do. But as you can see, it sort of clips on anyway, it's not going anywhere, and if it does come loose, we'll just push it back down. And as I say, that pipe there's like a V section pipe on the back of that wiring loom. I think that's where it goes, up into there. Okay, so there we go, that is that. So we have now completed, that was step 14, wasn't it? So we've completed step 14 now. So all that is done. So we can cross all that off. Pencil. So that's all done. That's all done. Right. So now we've got that sub-assembly there. So now we can move on to step 15, which is going to be in part 8. So what I'll do in the meantime, I'll get some painting done, and then we'll come back and look and fit and all this in part 8. So thank you very much for watching. I have had a comment from someone that referred to this as a toy. It is by no means a toy, okay? It's 1/8 scale, so having a toy-like appearance is often one of the downsides of having a larger scale model. But this is by no means a toy. For a start, it costs nearly £800, and it takes quite a bit of skill to get together because there's some tricky little foibles with it. Generally, it's very, very easy, but there's some tricky little foibles, and everywhere we've had those, I've covered them. But as you can see, all of that work I did on the intake, the fuel lines and all that, waste of time, can't see any of it. So there we go, but we enjoyed doing it, didn't we? But we can see there, we look in the side of the engine, we can see all that lovely detail under there. So we know it's there, don't we? It's in the video, it's there. So there we go, guys. So that's been part 7. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already, please hit the like and subscribe. Go on to the link at the bottom of this video in the description and have a look at this model. You'll be doing me a favour, because the more hits they get from me, the happier they'll be with me, and the more they're like this, the more likely they are to send me another model, and then I can build it for you. So there we are. So that's all gone together lovely. Happy with that, and very nice indeed. So thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.